The dungeon everyone named Death's Lair finally fell to one stubborn man. Su Ming walked alone into an S-rank nightmare, beat the boss, and walked out with something the world wanted, a divine ring. But victory turned to trap. Allies he trusted closed in, a binding circle bloomed, and the woman he thought was on his side stabbed him where it hurt most. The artifact was the prize, and betrayal the plan. Then the impossible happened. A vortex, a blinding light, and he opens his eyes at an awakening ceremony. 18 again, the ring of defiance hot on his finger, and a golden system declaring a mythic profession, Sword God. The world that branded him a monster just got a second chance at him. He remembers everything. Old wounds, old plots, and a vow made in blood. Those who set the trap will answer, one way or another. He keeps the ring close, keeps the class secret, and goes after the one thing the last life stole from him. Time to get it right. This is not a rebirth for peace. It's a restart with memory, artifact, and a mythic path. The Academy laughs, the nobles watch, but Su Ming has the tools and a promise. Now the game begins, and this time, he writes the ending.
Everything starts on the day the awakening finally hits the world. Everyone knew the place as Death's Lair, and it had a reputation for being an S-rank dungeon. For years, nobody could get through this portal. It was the first one like it, and it just showed up out of nowhere. People tried for decades, but it never got cleared. Su Ming decided to go it alone, stepping up to face the boss by himself. He kept his cool and pushed through, eventually taking down the boss without any help. Just then, a group of guys showed up and blocked his way. They wanted the divine artifact he'd just gotten and made it clear they expected him to hand it over. Su Ming stands in the middle of a group that claims to be on his side, but things take a turn. The guys around him suddenly get aggressive, making it clear they're not as friendly as they seemed. Instead of having his back, they start pushing him around with threats, and Su Ming realizes he can't really trust any of them. Right then, he figures out he got tricked. The whole thing was just a setup so they could take his stuff. The leader of the traitors stands across from the main character, ready for a showdown. Tension hangs in the air as both know what's at stake. It's clear this isn't just any fight. There's history and unfinished business between them. The moment feels heavy, like everyone's holding their breath, watching to see who'll make the first move. Zhang Xuan gets ready and starts calling out his massive weapon, pulling it into view. Zhengxin's weapon started to light up, sparks of electricity running along its surface. It looked like it was about to do something big, and anyone watching could tell this wasn't just for show. The guy stared Su Ming down, making it clear what he wanted. If Su Ming just handed over the artifact, things wouldn't get any worse for him. It was one of those moments where the stakes felt high, and Su Ming knew he had to make a choice. So, it turns out the traitor isn't there to talk or make any deals, he's just planning to wipe out all of the guy's powers. The main dude feels completely let down, thinking back to how he always had this guy's back, almost like family, ever since they were both 18. Now he finally gets just how toxic his old friend really is. They only cared about getting the divine item, so the hero let loose with serious energy, not holding anything back. He calls out the traitors, daring them to try and take the divine ring from him. He stands his ground, showing he's not scared, and waits to see if anyone's actually brave enough to step up. The guys start to get nervous when they see what Su Ming can do, but Zhang Xuan stands his ground and refuses to back off. Zhang Xuan knows they're almost there. The plan is basically finished, and just one last thing stands in their way. It's that moment where everything feels right on the edge, close enough to imagine the win, but not quite safe yet. Out of nowhere, a woman showed up above him, calling out his name loud enough for everyone to hear. He doesn't see it coming at all. 1 second, everything's normal, and the next, something totally unexpected happens. He just stands there, caught off guard, not sure how to react at first. It turns out to be someone he knows, a girl named Shaimin. The girl wraps her arms around him, holding on tight. She'd been anxious since she heard about the trap, and now that she sees him, there's this look of real relief on her face. Su Ming just grinned, looking pretty confident. With the ring on his finger, he felt untouchable, like nothing could mess with him now. Su Ming couldn't figure out how those guys managed to find him. It didn't make sense. He hadn't told anyone where he'd be. The thought bugged him, replaying over and over in his mind as he tried to come up with an answer. At the same time, the leader of the traitors stands back, grinning in a way that shows he's up to no good. He just watches everything unfold, clearly enjoying the chaos. Out of nowhere, Shaimin turns on him. He never saw it coming, and for a moment, everything just stops. It's like his mind can't quite process what just happened. Shaimin, the one person he thought he could trust, just stabbed him in the back. RMC just stood there, trying to process what happened. He trusted her, and now it felt like the ground had dropped out from under him. It was tough to wrap his head around the fact that she went behind his back. All the times they'd hung out and shared stuff suddenly felt different, and now he wasn't sure what to think. Zhang Zhuan couldn't help but feel proud as the plan worked out just like he hoped. He quickly set off the binding formation, locking everything into place. A red magic circle started to appear. As soon as it happens, a strange mark shows up, and he finally gets it. Someone's been messing with him behind his back this whole time. The traitor steps over to Zhang Xuan's side, making it clear she had been working with him the whole time. Turns out she was just using the hero to get what she wanted. When she spotted Su Ming's 9-star talent, she realized right away that he could help her get what she wanted. The main guy can't believe what just happened. Betrayed by someone he trusted, it hits him hard. The anger builds up until he just loses it, yelling out as loud as he can. All that trust is gone, and now there's nothing left but pure frustration. The leader of the traitors didn't waste any time. He gave the signal, and suddenly all his guys rushed at the intruder, trying to take the artifact from him. Out of nowhere, a huge bony hand crashed up through the dirt. Suddenly, a girl wearing a hoodie steps into the scene and signals for everyone to pause. Her magic slammed into the enemy's attacks, sparks flying as the two forces battled for control. He's totally lost, wondering why she showed up out of nowhere. There's a girl hovering above the ground, like she's just hanging there, totally weightless. Ji Yao, who knows some seriously dark magic, tries to encourage Su Ming. She doesn't want him to quit, even when things get rough. Zhang Xuan gets annoyed when another person arrives, thinking it's just someone else about to lose. He acts all confident, telling himself that there's no way Su Ming can escape this time, not even if an emperor tried to help. With so many strong fighters backing him up, Zhang Xuan feels like they've already won. They rush forward, ready to go for another round. The fight starts, and the girl steps up, going against a bunch of guys all at once. She keeps Su Ming safe, making sure no one gets close to him while she handles the attackers. The traitor charges forward, throwing all his strength into the attack. He doesn't hold back, making it clear to everyone around that he's serious. Nobody standing in his path is safe right now. Su Ming spots trouble fast. He sees someone sneaking up behind Ji Yao and his gut tightens. Without thinking, he shouts out, trying to warn her before anything bad happens. The traitor goes after Ji Yao, landing a hard hit without holding back. Ji Yao barely has time to react before the next blow comes, making it clear the traitor isn't playing around or showing any sympathy. He just stood there, frozen, staring as her name slipped out under his breath. He couldn't believe what was happening, almost like his brain refused to catch up. Zhang Xuan realized he shouldn't be thinking about anyone else right now, since he's the one up next. The traitor leader didn't waste any time. He charged straight at Su Ming, making it clear that he wasn't messing around. It was obvious he wanted Su Ming out of the way, just like everyone else. The boy's injuries are serious. Junction looks at him and makes it clear he has to give up what he's carrying if he wants any chance of making it out alive. Blood dripped from the hero's mouth as anger burned in his eyes. He shouts at everyone, calling them out, and then pulls off this insane move that looks almost unreal. The power coming off the scene was wild, and the traitors could hardly believe what they were seeing. Most of them just stood there, frozen, as the energy burst out in front of them. It was obvious none of them had expected things to get that intense. Right after the explosion, the guy tries to find Ji Yao, shouting his name as thick smoke fills the air around him. He holds her close, wondering why she showed up, especially after everything he did to mess things up. He watches as she gently puts her hand on his cheek, and right then, regret shows up on his face. Ji Yao grinned, looking over at his friends. He made it clear that if one of them was going, they were all going. No one was getting left behind. The hero's sword crashes down and hits the ground hard, sending out a burst of energy that everyone can see. The enemies just stood there, watching in silence, looking pretty confused about what was going on. Su Ming held Ji Yao close, his mind set on a promise. In that moment, as the god of slaughter, he made a silent vow. He made up his mind that if he ever got another shot at life, he wouldn't let things slide. Ren Xiaomin and Zhang Xuan were definitely going to pay, no matter what it took or how long it would take him. The traitors look around, not sure what's going on. Their leader watches the hero closely, trying to figure out what he's planning. Right then, Zhang Xuan realizes he wants to bring the divine artifact back into Death's lair. Out of nowhere, a huge vortex pops up again right where the portal was. The main guy steps forward, challenging everyone to try and take the divine item from him. Without hesitating, he jumps straight into the swirling vortex, leaving everyone behind. He and Geo tumbled into the portal as the hero held out the ring to the enemies, trying to make a deal. The artifact in Su Ming's hand started to shine bright, lighting up the space around him. Everything goes bright all at once, like someone just turned on a massive light. The main guy isn't sure if he just passed out or something else happened. He's stuck in that weird moment, trying to figure out what's real. He opens his eyes to find himself somewhere completely unfamiliar. As he looks around, nothing looks familiar and he starts to wonder how he even got there. The place feels almost unreal and he's left trying to figure out what happened. He glances up and spots what seems to be a school building ahead. A guy stands with a microphone in his hand, looking like he's about to host something important. He spots a guy standing on stage, talking to a bunch of students. Everyone's attention snapped to the screen as the announcement played. It said that one of the students had just awakened as a 3-star enchanter. Suddenly, the room felt different, like something big had just happened. People started glancing around, wondering who it was. Some looked excited, others seemed a bit unsure, but nobody wanted to miss what would happen next. Su Ming found himself back at the awakening ceremony. The place felt just as tense as before, packed with people who were all waiting to see what would happen next. Everyone seemed to be holding their breath, eyes on him, and he could feel the weight of their attention pressing down. It was hard not to notice how serious things had gotten, but Su Ming kept his focus, ready for whatever was coming. Everything about this feels strangely familiar to him, almost like he's been through it all once already. He figures out he's somehow back at 18, right on the day of the ceremony. Then he remembers that student who just awakened, Wang Cheng, the chubby kid. He remembers that the guy used to be an enchanter in his old life too. The announcer kept going, and Li Sung-young got upgraded to a 2-star warrior. Meanwhile, Qian Yu didn't make it. The student can't help but feel proud of himself after finally reaching the level of a 2-star warrior. It's a big deal for him, and he takes a moment to soak it all in. This is something he's been working toward for a while, so the sense of achievement is real. He's pumped up knowing he's finally made some solid progress. The next kid steps up and just breaks down, tears running down his face. His awakening didn't go right at all, and it hit him hard. The disappointment was clear as he realized things hadn't turned out like he hoped. Song Li finally wakes up as a combat mage, and the crowd around him cheers. He looks a little surprised at first, but then a grin spreads across his face as he soaks in the moment. There's a buzz of excitement in the air, with everyone clearly hyped to see what he's just pulled off. Song stands tall, feeling proud and a bit relieved, enjoying the energy from everyone around him. The main guy stands back and watches everything unfold with a small, knowing grin. It's pretty clear he saw this coming way before anyone else did. He smiles, realizing deep down that this really is a new start for him. It finally sinks in. He's not the same person he used to be. Just then, his face shifts as something comes back to him. He thinks this is his shot to make things right. Suddenly, one of the guys in class gets all worked up and starts making a scene about some hidden combat job. Everyone turns to look, caught off guard by how loud he is, and the room gets a bit tense as they try to figure out what he's talking about. Zhang Tong wakes up and finds out he's turned into a magic hammer warrior. It's not what he expected, but now he's got this power, and everything around him suddenly feels different. He looks at his hands, realizing things are about to change in a big way. On top of everything else, it turns out his natural ability is ranked at 8 stars. Everyone in the crowd starts cheering when they spot him. He's the young master from the Zheng family, and everyone knows his parents are seriously powerful. He looks over at Zhang Tang, his face set and focused, not breaking eye contact. While the announcer praised the academy for having an 8-star genius, Su Ming suddenly felt a tap on his shoulder. Zhao showed up, saying she'd been searching for him. He looks at her with an expression she can't quite figure out. Noticing it, she tries to understand what's up with him. Meanwhile, he suddenly congratulates her for something, but she has no clue what he's talking about, which just leaves her even more confused. Right then, he remembers how she once gave up everything for him in his past life. The memory hits him hard, and it's like for a second, everything else fades away. He can't ignore how much that moment still matters to him, even now. He smiles when he sees her, looking like he's actually glad she showed up. Deep down, he knows she doesn't get what's going on yet, but he figures she'll catch on before long. When the announcer called Jill up for her awakening, she started to feel nervous. The guy gestures for her to put her hand on the awakening totem. She hesitates for a second, not really sure what to expect, but then she reaches out and rests her hand on it, feeling a little nervous. The girl stretches out her hand and touches the blue energy. As soon as she makes contact, the light gets way brighter, almost lighting up everything around her. She didn't expect it when a blue light started wrapping around her, covering her from head to toe. For a second, she just stood there trying to process what was going on. Out of nowhere, a huge wave of power sweeps through the area. The crowd instantly starts talking, everyone realizing that someone with a rare profession just showed up. Word started spreading that Jill had just awakened as a necromancer. It was one of those rare 7-star secret classes that barely anyone ever got. When another secret combat profession showed up right after the first, the students couldn't believe it. Everyone started whispering and looking around, trying to figure out what was going on. Some guys pulled out their phones like they were about to post about it, while others just stared, wide-eyed. The whole room buzzed with excitement and curiosity. Su Ming grins, not surprised at all. This is what he was waiting for. Now it's finally his moment. The announcer says his name, and everyone in the crowd looks at him with doubt. To them, he's just some orphan with no real talent. In this world, the Awakened run the show. They pretty much call the shots in a place everyone knows as Dragon Country. A long time back, something called the Awakening happened. Ever since then, when someone hits 18, they get the chance to switch up what they do for work. With this, they get access to new powers and gear that could totally flip how their lives turn out. But at the same time, they have to deal with wild monsters and risky dungeons. On top of everything else, there are still tons of other problems they have to deal with. Back in his last life, the main guy grew up without any parents. He learned to get by with whatever help he could find, like handouts and scholarships. On the day everyone had been waiting for, the awakening finally happened. He got lucky and ended up with a 9-star attribute. He was known as the legendary God of Slaughter, a title that meant he was seriously strong. In this new life, he's ready to prove himself all over again. Everyone's watching, and he knows it's his chance to step up and remind them what he can do. The announcer notices something weird with the power in the air and starts to think it might actually be a 9-star genius causing it. Ji Yao and the other students just stand there, frozen. They can't help but think this might be another one of those hidden jobs or something. Everyone's looking around trying to figure out what's going on. The hero takes a steady breath, getting ready to handle the rune's power again. He knows what's coming, but he's not backing down now. His hands tense up a little as he focuses, reminding himself he's done this before and he can do it again. Out of nowhere, a light starts shining on his chest. He looks down and spots the Ring of Defiance, the divine artifact, lighting up. It takes him a second to process what's happening, but he quickly gets what it means. He looks down at his hand, surprised to see the same ring still there. Somehow, it made the jump with him. Suddenly, a bright screen flashes in front of him, locking him into a new path, a mythic profession called Sword God. He stared at the screen, barely able to process what he was seeing. Somehow, he'd just unlocked a mythic job, the Sword God. Suddenly, the whole sky lights up with wild streaks of purple and red, spreading everywhere overhead. It looks unreal, like something out of a game or a crazy special effect, making everyone stop and stare. The teacher just stands there, mouth open, trying to figure out what kind of job could make something like this happen. One of the guys thought it would be pretty disappointing if it ended up being a job that didn't involve any fighting. The hero from the Jung family eyes the main guy, looking like he doesn't trust him one bit. He starts to notice that the guy just stands there, not moving at all, even though everything around him is buzzing with action. It makes him curious, trying to figure out why someone would freeze up like that when things are getting intense. The main guy figures out that his job isn't what it used to be. He's now called Sword God. This isn't what he signed up for, and it takes a second to process. Still, he knows he has to roll with it, even if everything's about to change. He reached out and pressed his hand against the golden system screen. He spots right away that the system isn't like the one he remembered from before. It looks new, with stuff he hasn't seen, and he can't help but stare for a second, trying to figure out how it works now. The screen lit up with his name, and right below it, his new job popped up, Sword God. The system then tells him he has this rare golden talent that lets him turn anything into something better. He just stood there, totally caught off guard. This new skill was way better than anything he had before, even better than his old 9-star job. He couldn't help but smile to himself, already thinking how crazy strong he'd get if this was legit. He thinks this new power will make him even stronger than he used to be when everyone feared him as the God of Slaughter. When the skill screen pops up, he notices there's nothing unlocked at all. He just stares, totally lost, not sure what's going on. The main guy clenches his fists, his face turning red as frustration takes over. He looks around, upset, thinking about how he doesn't have any skills, not even one. For a second, he just stands there, breathing hard, annoyed at himself more than anyone else. While all this is going on, the announcer starts getting impatient, wondering why Su Ming is still not finished. It's clear he's taking longer than everyone expected, and people are starting to notice. The guy starts thinking about how having no powers pretty much makes him like everyone else. He can't help but wonder if the system is just playing games with him at this point. He looks at the screen and sees a message pop up. The system tells him it's getting feedback and needs to figure out which ring he's using. Out of nowhere, the Ring of Defiance shows up in the protagonist's hand. The system finally figures out what the divine artifact is. The system screen shines brightly, lighting up his face in the dark room. Suddenly, a bright golden light bursts upward, stretching straight into the sky. The energy behind it is intense, lighting up everything around and grabbing everyone's attention. The announcer notices the lights flicker and his eyes go wide. He can't help but think about what just happened and starts to question if the awakening has finished. A star with the number 10 lit up in the night sky. The guy stared up, not really trusting what he was seeing. It just didn't make sense. Stuff like this never happened, not even in wild TikTok stories. He kept looking, trying to figure out if he was dreaming or if something was seriously off. Right then, everyone finds out he's unlocked this rare hidden job called Star Sword Controller. The students stare in disbelief, trying to figure out what kind of 10-star monster just showed up. Some of them can't help but pull out their phones, snapping pictures and sending them to friends. Everyone's mind races with guesses, but nobody really knows what they're looking at. The whole room buzzes with excitement and nervous energy as everyone waits to see what happens next. Zhang Tang stands there, not sure what to say. Nearby, a guy who used to brag about his 8 stars can't help but notice there's a student around with 10. Suddenly, his own achievement doesn't seem so impressive anymore. This year, the Academy's got a lot of new faces, and everyone can tell there's some serious potential in the crowd. Even the announcer seems pretty hyped about all the fresh talent showing up. Everyone knew the job wasn't exactly top tier, but people could see that Su Ming had something special. His skills stood out, and there was this sense that, no matter where he started, he could go really far. His talent was that obvious. After that, the principal steps up and gives the main guy some cultivation gear as a reward. But instead of being impressed, everyone in the crowd starts laughing at him. They start talking about how his class is the weakest one out of all the swordsmen, and nobody thinks he stands a chance. The hero listens in and realizes that everyone else thinks his sword controller class is basically useless. Out of nowhere, Jiao rushed over to Su Ming, wanting to say something. The girl gives him a smile, nodding at his achievement, and he does the same for her, both of them quietly recognizing each other's progress. Everyone could tell his talent was off the charts, like he was born for this. Even though his class had some clear problems, it seemed obvious he'd find a way through. With that kind of skill, nobody really doubted he'd figure it out. He gave her a quick nod, letting her know he appreciated the help. Whatever rumors or talk had been going around, he honestly couldn't care less. That stuff just didn't bother him. He admits to himself that this is how he hoped they'd react, and seeing the girl looking lost just makes him feel like he's got the upper hand. At the same time, the announcer steps up and calls out the name of the next student who's supposed to go through the awakening ceremony. The crowd goes wild, clapping and yelling for the girl. She stands out, not just because she's good-looking, but because everyone can't help but notice her. Ren Shaman steps forward, catching the attention of everyone around. Zhang Tong stands back, watching her closely, curiosity written all over his face. He doesn't say anything, just keeps his eyes on her, trying to figure out what she's really up to. The hero from the Zheng family gives her a quick wish for luck, and she just nods back, showing she's ready for whatever comes next. Everyone at school knew the girl was the prettiest around, and Ji Yao noticed how much attention she got because of it. The main character turns around and walks away, not even bothering to watch what's happening. Clearly, he doesn't care about whatever's going on right now. He thinks back to his previous life and realizes the traitor always used his skills just to climb higher. He remembers how, at the end, the girl turned on him right away without even thinking twice. He suddenly thinks back to the promise he made right before everything went wrong. He swears to himself that someday he'll make things right and pay them back for everything they've done. Su Ming steps out of the ceremony and heads into the city. He walks along the busy streets, blending in with the crowd as he goes, his mind replaying everything that just happened. The noise and lights of the city surround him, but he keeps moving, not really paying attention to anyone around him. In this new life, he starts to notice that his daily routine hasn't really changed at all. Everything looks and feels just like it did before, almost like nothing's different. The only real difference in his life now was his job. He kept everything about it completely hidden. He can hide his info or change it whenever he wants. He suddenly realizes this is one of the 4 skills he picked up back in his old life. Right then, the Ring of Defiance showed up, glowing right in front of him. He stared down at his hand, not really believing what he was seeing. Somehow, the divine artifact had ended up with him. For a second, he couldn't move, just trying to figure out how this even happened. It was wild. He never thought he'd actually hold something like this. He finds out from the system that some of his old job skills have carried over to this new life. Now he gets it. He's got the Sword God class, and those God of Slaughter skills are his to use. He checks his status screen and sees something wild. His job isn't like anyone else's. It's the only one in the world, and it's actually rated as Mythic, which is basically top tier. He remembers how things went down before and doesn't want to get played again. So he figures he has to get stronger this time. He chooses to keep his job a secret and tries to enjoy this fresh start as best he can. The day after the awakening ceremony sticks in the hero's mind. He can still picture how everything felt so new and a little confusing, like the world had changed overnight. The Rookie Dungeon Challenge is about to open up for everyone. For him, this isn't really hard, but he knows he still has to level up and grab better gear. He thought it over and made up his mind. He was going after the toughest boss in the whole place. Before doing anything else, the main guy realizes he needs to find himself a solid weapon. At the same time, over at a fancy hotel in the city called the Palace, things were unfolding. Ren Shaman and Zhang Tong were sitting close, lost in their own world. It was one of those moments where everything else faded out. Both seemed comfortable, like they trusted each other with stuff they probably didn't tell anyone else. Their shoulders almost touched, and the way they looked at each other showed they were way more than just business partners. For a second, the usual noise of trading life didn't matter. This was just about the two of them. The girl wasn't happy about being there, and it showed. The guy could feel his patience wearing thin, especially since Su Ming ended up being the center of attention instead of him. It was hard not to get frustrated when things didn't go the way he planned. Zhang Tong couldn't help but wonder what the girl was up to. She pulled out her phone and turned the screen toward him, showing something that caught his attention right away. When he spots the phone, the Zhang family's son suddenly goes quiet. His face turns serious, all the usual goofiness gone as he stares at the screen. It's clear something on that phone just got his full attention. Xiaomin started thinking ahead. She had her own plan and wanted to make sure Su Ming would be useful to her later on. She figured out a way to trick him, already setting things in motion without him even realizing it. Far from that spot, the main guy shows up at this massive building, ready to pick out his weapon. He makes his way up to the 12th floor, where all the weapon shops are. There are students everywhere, crowding the place and filling up every spot. He hears some guys talking about how they can't really buy the pricey weapons at school. Everyone crowded in, checking out this sword that was on display. It had a crazy price tag, 1 million, and what really got everyone talking was the fact that it could actually freeze the blood of monsters. Guys were snapping pics, posting stories, and trying to get a closer look, all wondering who would even buy something like that. He smirked to himself, knowing the weapon was just a fake. The memory of those sellers getting busted flashed through his mind, and he felt a bit more at ease. Out of nowhere, a woman stepped in front of him, flanked by 2 bodyguards. She knew his name and called out to him, making him freeze on the spot. Zhang Lan walked up and let him know who she was. She was the vice director at Zhangyan Conglomerate. She handed him a business card, her expression calm and professional like she'd done this 100 times before. Su Ming grabs the card, totally confused about who this woman is. Zhang Lan steps up and tells him he can get whatever he wants from the store, but there's a catch. He needs a favor in return. The guy wonders what favor the woman needs, and she pulls out her phone, getting ready to show him a photo. One of the bodyguards pulled out his phone and held it up so the main guy could see the screen. In the photo, a really pretty girl sits right in the center of a garden filled with white flowers. The woman explains that her sister is Zhang Yongqing. She already knows about Su Ming and his rare 10-star talent. She wanted him to team up with her sister and watch her back while they went into the rookie dungeon. There were only stairs. He turned her down right away. The woman, not missing a beat, told him he could pick any weapon he wanted if he changed his mind and said yes. Su Ming lifted his finger and aimed it straight at the priciest weapon in the shop. He looks over the choices, thinks for a second, and picks the one that stands out to him. The weapon the hero's after is called the Frosty Skies Cold Sword. It's not cheap. This thing costs $1 million. The woman heard what he said and instantly got irritated. She looked at him, clearly not buying his confidence about being worth $1 million. The main guy explains that he was the one who made the offer in the first place. If she isn't into it, he's cool with that. He points out that money isn't the answer to everything and thinks her sister should get ready for what's coming. The vice director looked at him, kind of sizing him up, and seemed to think he was different from the others. Still, there was a clear warning in the air. They weren't about to let what he did slide. It was obvious that whatever happened today wouldn't be forgotten anytime soon. Everyone in the crowd couldn't believe he actually stood up to the big company. People stared, some nudged their friends, and a few even pulled out their phones, ready to share what just happened. It wasn't every day someone had the guts to go against people with that much power. Out of nowhere, his phone buzzes in his pocket. He glances at the screen, curious about who just texted him. He notices the message on his phone, and it's from the trader, Ren Shaman. He spots that message from his past life again. Looking at it, he can't help but notice the girl is still just like he remembers. She hasn't really changed at all. Right then, he thought back to his past life. He remembered how easily he got caught up in her scheme back then, not even realizing what was happening until it was too late. Now, the main guy decides to go along with her plan and locks in the meetup. After that, Su Ming walks over to the saleswoman. He wants to ask her something, so he gets her attention, looking a bit unsure but determined to figure things out. The hero wanted to know more about the sword stones, so he brought it up. The woman let him know that these stones could actually make some pretty solid weapons, the silver grade kind. The employee lets him know it's all just luck, But the guy doesn't mind. That's actually what he's looking for. The salesman stands there, not sure what's going on. He looks around, trying to figure things out, but nothing really makes sense to him right now. Right now, the hero figures it's smartest to put his money on a weapon that doesn't cost much. He knows his options are limited, so he's keeping things low-key and practical, hoping this call helps him get by for now. But the truth is, he's not just taking a wild guess. He actually sees the numbers hidden inside the stones. He could do this because of a special skill he picked up in his last life, something called the legendary Eye of Perception. He gives a quick smirk and picks up the stone on the right. In his head, he's already thinking that getting it for 50 coins is a pretty sweet deal. Some of the students noticed him right away and started eyeing whatever he had in his hands, trying to figure out what it was. The guys look at him and start laughing, giving him a hard time for turning down the offer just so he can mess around with some rocks. The main guy lets out a deep breath when he spots Yang Ding, the same jerk who used to mess with him back in his old life. The hero steps up to the bully, not backing down. He throws out a challenge, putting 5,000 coins on the line. The guys stop talking right away, caught off guard by what Su Ming just suggested. But then everyone just cracks up, not holding back at all, and the main guy ends up getting roasted by the group. Everyone around kept calling the stones worthless, just some rocks that nobody should care about. But Su Ming stayed calm, almost like he knew something they didn't. He quietly let everyone know they were about to find out who really had the upper hand when it came to money. With the bet set, he steps up, ready to crack open the stone right then and there. The bully doesn't really believe the guy has 5,000 coins to spend, but then the system goes ahead and opens up the stone anyway. The hero grinned and turned on his special skill, the Eye of Perception. He spots a bright red sword stuck deep inside the stone. It looks strong, like it's waiting for someone to pull it out. The red sword slowly starts to come loose from the stone. The hero smashed the stone, and for the first time, everyone could see the weapon hidden inside. Everyone just stares, caught off guard by what they're seeing. No one expected this, and it's like the whole place freezes for a second. Su Min reaches out and takes hold of his new sword, gripping the handle tightly. Everyone else in the store freezes when they see what just happened. The students look around at each other, not sure what to do next. Some of them even step back, trying to figure out if they should get involved or just stay out of it. The mood in the store shifts, with everyone suddenly paying close attention. On the screen, it shows that the weapon is a dark iron sword. It's not just tough, it actually has the power to heal the person who owns it. He grins to himself, thinking the weapon is just right for his date. Yang Ding and his boys just froze, eyes wide, not really processing what they just saw. Su Ming actually yanked a silver rank weapon out of the stone, and none of them could wrap their heads around it. Su Ming checked out the sword in his hand and thought it was pretty solid. The lifesteal part especially caught his attention. He realized he wouldn't even need a healer for the next dungeon run. The system showed that the weapon was a silver rank black steel sword, and it had a plus 10% lifesteal boost. Yang Ding froze, his mind racing, as Su Ming leveled the blade right at him. He let the bully know straight up that a bet's a bet, so those 5,000 Advent coins belonged to him now. Yang Ding realized he had no other choice, so he just sent the money over. He stormed out, yelling about how he'd remember getting embarrassed like that. Su Ming just told him to stop making dumb bets. The shop assistant stood there, stunned, thinking it'd been forever since anyone had actually found a real weapon inside one of those stones. Su Ming, clutching his fresh winnings, made his way over to the counter to check out a scabbard. He dropped the question about whether 5,000 coins would cover it, and the assistant, clearly caught off guard, nodded and said that was more than enough. He picked up a gold-decorated scabbard at silver rank, and now his weapon wouldn't break down as fast. Durability loss got cut in half. Su Ming felt pretty good about it, realizing this would seriously cut down on how much the sword got messed up over time. He gripped his sword, still in its sheath, when out of nowhere a system message showed up on his screen, asking if he wanted to turn on this secret feature called Weapon Manifestation. He held back for now, figuring it wasn't the right moment. A small grin popped up as he remembered he still had work to do. This new weapon needed leveling up before it was really game time. After a while, Su Ming was walking through the park, letting his mind run over everything that had happened. He realized that even after becoming the sword god, he didn't get a single class skill he could actually use. Still, his class did give him this insane primal talent that was on a whole other level. Universal Ascension. With this rare skill, he could level up any item once, making his mythic class actually live up to the hype. With his sword in hand, he checked out what this new power could do. A system pop-up showed up, letting everyone know that Universal Ascension just kicked off. He pulled off the Ascension, and just like that, he got the Crimson Drinker effect. The sword started glowing with this intense red vibe, looking way more powerful than before. The last notification popped up, showing off the sword's upgrade. Now it was a crimson black steel sword, sitting at high silver rank. The crimson drinker ability got a buff. It could suck up an enemy's blood as soon as it hit. On top of that, the sword unlocked a new move called Bloodthirst, giving a solid stat boost for half a minute every time he took down a monster. Su Ming checked out his upgrade and felt pretty good about it. Once he finished getting everything ready, he fired up his hidden weapon skill, totally sure that tomorrow's beginner dungeon wouldn't even slow him down. That night, Su Ming made his way up to the rooftop on the school building. He stood there with the city lights behind him, holding his new sword, ready for whatever came next. Ren Xiaoman had already shown up. She spun around, flashed a flirty grin, and gave him a hard time for showing up late. Her smile disappeared right away. Su Ming didn't say anything, he just went for it, swinging his sword straight at her. She let out a loud scream. She dodged just in time, and the blade slammed into the concrete right where she'd been standing a second before. She just stood there, totally thrown off, trying to figure out what he was up to. Su Ming stared her down, eyes cold and steady. He was locked in, making it clear he was there to settle the score. Out of nowhere, that memory from his last life hit him the moment everything ended. He remembered holding Ji Yao, who was barely hanging on, while Ren Xiaoman just stood there, not even caring. Ren Xiaoman just stood there, totally confused and kinda mad. She wanted answers, since she'd literally just said yes to his confession. She pulled out her phone and scrolled to the messages, putting the screen up so everyone could see the text where he admitted he liked her and shot his shot. She snapped, reminding him that he was the one who chased after her in the first place. Now, she just couldn't figure out why he was acting like this and messing with her. Su Ming didn't say a word, he just stood there, face locked and unreadable. He shot her a cold, confident smirk, like he was already 2 steps ahead. He let her know she was right about the confession, but that was old news, something from another life. His thoughts jumped to the past, thinking about how things used to be between them. She was basically the queen of school, everyone knew her, while he was just that quiet kid with no family, always on his own. He remembered the day right after his first awakening ceremony. He sat there looking down and kind of out of it. Then she walked over, smiled at him, and checked if he was okay. Ever since that day, he could tell someone actually cared about him. So he ended up just texting and telling the truth. They kept hanging out, going on dates and getting closer, spending more time just the two of them. But those good times didn't last after the memory hit him. There was a photo of her and Zhang Tong together, showing what reaching her goal really looked like. He got betrayed. Right now, Su Ming's face twisted up, totally pissed off, as he yelled that none of it was true. He went off on her, saying he was onto all her sketchy stuff with Zhang Tong, and that she'd just been playing him the whole time. Ren Xiaoman totally froze up, stumbling over his words and trying hard to play it off like none of it was true. He just wanted to shut down whatever was being thrown at him. Su Ming wasn't backing down. He let her know she already knew if he was telling the truth or not, and he called out her whole confident, pretty act as totally fake. He got real close, his words coming out sharp, letting her know he thought she was just all about herself and didn't care what anyone else thought. Ren Xiaoman totally lost it. Her calm was gone, and she looked straight up angry, not even trying to hide it anymore. She totally lost it on him, yelling and throwing the whole orphan thing in his face. She basically said the only reason she even bothered talking to him was because he had some talent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stood a chance. She got fired up and basically warned him that she and Zhang Tang weren't about to let that disrespect slide. Su Ming just brushed off her threats like they were nothing, barely even fazed. He looked at her, kind of daring her to actually do something, but made it clear she should probably be stressing about how this whole mess might wreck her squeaky clean reputation. That last tease just set her off, and she lost control. He was boiling inside, barely holding it together. She rushed over and grabbed the sword Su Ming left stuck in the concrete, swinging it right at him. As the blade came at him, Su Ming couldn't help but think how this was exactly like what happened before, back in his past life. This time, he was ready. Right before the sword could hit, red energy shot out from his blade, freezing it in place. Ren Xiaoman just stood there, not believing what he was seeing. Su Ming wasn't surprised at all. He'd pretty much expected this, since he already knew she was the type to turn on people. His screen flashed with a system message letting him know that Crimson Drinker on his weapon was now active. Red energy shot out from the blade and snaked around Ren Xiaoman, locking him in place. Su Ming finally let his plan show. As soon as he aimed his weapon's power at her, it was basically game over. The tendrils flew out and smacked her right in the face. She screamed loud, freaking out because she thought her face was messed up for good. She dropped to the floor, and Su Ming just stood there looking down at her. He didn't show any emotion, just made it clear this was all on her. He was ready to say it. This was where his payback started. She suddenly cut him off, yelling that Zhang Tang was coming for him. Su Ming didn't even flinch. He just called his sword back and watched it fade away straight into his inventory like it was no big deal. Su Ming lets her know that Zhang Tong can pull up and handle things whenever he's ready. After that, he figured the haircut pretty much wiped out whatever feelings he used to have for her. Suddenly, a screen pops up showing a reward from the school, some pills, 10,000 coins, and a fresh combat suit. The next morning, he checks out the pill he picked up from school. Su Ming eats it and thinks the principal was generous but pities the limitations of his class. Rewritten script, Su Ming took a bite and had to admit, the principal really went all out. Still, he couldn't help but feel bad about how much his class was held back. Just like that, the system pops up. He's now level 2 and gets 10 extra points to boost his stats. His new passive just kicked in, and now he can pick up any sword skill out there. He's all fired up, ready to flex his skills in the newbie dungeon. When he gets to the academy, the beginner dungeon area is already packed out with students everywhere. He moves through the spot, weaving between people as he heads deeper into the crowd. His face changes fast, and he suddenly looks pretty annoyed about whatever just happened. Some students spot the main guy and jump at the chance to squad up with him. Su Ming just laughs it off and calls them funnies, not taking it seriously at all. He says no to joining because he's already got his own crew. Suddenly, this girl with bright pink hair shows up and wants to know if he's got his squad set up yet. She showed up way ahead of everyone else, just so she could be the first one on his team. He lets her know he's not looking for regular rewards and warns her she might get hurt if she keeps going. He shares that he's planning to do his own thing, and the girl steps back, looking a bit let down. Right then, this guy Yanzi walks up to him and asks if he wants to join his team. He remembers that Yanzi used to be a 9-star too in his last life, so he just passes on the offer. Right at that moment, the pink-haired girl lets everyone know the main guy is hanging out with her. The other dude realizes it, says sorry, and dips out. He gives her a quick nod to show he appreciates the help, and she just waves off the crowd, telling everyone to head out. He checks his watch, realizing it's almost time for the dungeon to kick off. Suddenly, a massive portal pops open, and just like that, the newbie dungeon run kicks off. Suddenly, a hologram of the principal pops up. He looks kinda sorry and says he's about to go over all the rules. He lets everyone know that they're already signed up and says they'll rack up points for whatever they do to help out. The pink-haired girl seems locked in and all set, but out of nowhere, she notices that Su Ming isn't there anymore. He's just straight up disappeared. The principal lets everyone know the dungeon's open now, and any student can check it out. One of the students suddenly points out that someone had already jumped into the portal before the rest of the group even noticed. Someone else speaks up, saying he saw it happen too. That's when they all figure out it was Su Ming, the dude with the 10 stars. He gets teleported right into the dungeon, grinning like he's ready for whatever's about to go down. He steps inside, and right away, the place just brings back memories. He can't help but remember how freaked out he used to get here. The system drops a warning that the multiversal massacre is kicking off soon, making it clear this spot's risky, but could be a chance to level up if you play it smart. This time around, he decides he's all in picking the toughest path and going straight for the secret boss. It's night inside the dungeon. He's walking through Raging Tide Forest, and right away he spots that the map doesn't line up with what he remembers from before. He's also aware there's a bunch of unpredictable stuff still lurking in this dungeon. Everyone spawns somewhere random, so nobody's run ever looks the same. It's wild because the monsters that show up are different for everyone. He runs into this monster tree that looks way tougher than anything he's seen so far. The thing just gives off serious boss vibes. He's locked in on finding the hidden boss, so he's got to dodge all these random mobs getting in his way. He headed in ahead of everyone, checking out the path and grabbing whatever gear he needed before the boss fight. He's got his plan set, so he jumps into action without wasting any time. He takes off fast, knowing it'll get way harder to grab what he needs if the crowd shows up. At 7,030 in the morning, another student showed up and stepped into the dungeon. She and her crew look around and realize it's just them. The whole place is dead silent, not a single other challenger in sight. Out of nowhere, they catch this weird sound echoing through the trees. One of the guys spots someone sprinting far off and lets everyone know that's where the noise came from. Out of nowhere, a student comes running in, totally panicked and yelling for help like something wild just happened. None of the students can even move. They're just stuck, totally scared. Out of nowhere, 2 massive blood rats showed up, and the team leader freaked out, telling everyone to get out fast. Outside the dungeon, word gets out that 3 students already got taken out by those monsters. The girl with pink hair started stressing and told everyone they needed to squad up fast. While her friends are nowhere in sight, she's sprinting through the woods, barely able to catch her breath. She suddenly notices her friends are nowhere in sight, and just like that, she's left standing by herself. That sinking feeling hits. She's totally alone now. She looks around, totally confused about where she ended up, not recognizing anything around her. She suddenly spots a huge shadow, and this massive creature just shows up right in front of her. A huge gorilla-looking beast with glowing red eyes locks eyes with her, just standing there and watching her every move. The giant monster gets ready to strike while the girl just stands there, frozen and unable to move. With no way out, the student just barely manages to call for help under his breath. Right then, a red sword suddenly shows up in the air, flying straight at the creature. Su Ming shows up right on time, cutting down the monster and stepping in to help the girl. He jumped right over the scared girl, landing smooth as ever, putting himself between her and the creature. She stared at him, totally impressed, thinking he was insanely strong for taking down the monster with just one hit. She looked relieved and started thanking him, realizing who he was. She asked if he was actually Su Ming, that 10-star student everyone talks about. Su Ming kept it chill, just smiling as he let her know he was only passing through, but then he got serious, making it clear that if she messed up again, he wouldn't be there to help. The monster was still out there, not gone yet. The blue-haired girl couldn't believe it when she realized the monster was still around. She spun around fast and saw its shadow creeping up right behind her, looking way too dangerous for comfort. She freaked out and took off running, saying she'd bring help. As she bolted, she shouted for Su Ming to hang in there. Su Ming stood by himself in front of the beast and just turned on his eye of insight, staying cool the whole time. The system flashed a panel showing the monster was actually a mutated 8 King. This thing was a level 3 beast, super strong and tough, but honestly it moved pretty slow. Su Ming saw right away that this thing was a mutant, which explained how it tanked a shot from his silver weapon without going down. The mutated 8 King stood there huge and wild, looking ready to wreck anything in his way. It jumped up, swung its huge fist down hard, but Su Ming moved out of the way like it was nothing. He watched with a small grin, realizing the monster could actually move pretty fast. He looked at it and thought it'd be fun to turn it into a competition. He remembered the skills he picked up in his last life and went with the third one, Hidden God Step. A system notification popped up laying out what this skill was all about. He unlocked a speed boost that cranked his pace up by half and made everything way smoother. When it was on, nothing could touch him. He just couldn't get hit or even targeted at all. He used up a ton of energy. Teal energy lit up around Su Ming, wrapping him up like he just powered up in a game. He disappeared before anyone even realized it. He popped up right behind the 8 King, who had no clue what was happening, messing with him by making it obvious he was right there. The monster let out a loud roar and whipped around, ready to strike, but Su Ming straight up vanished in a quick burst of light. Su Ming glanced down at the beast, seeing how off balance and wide open it was. He was done. This fight was way too easy and honestly kinda lame. The mutated 8 King just froze, staring wide-eyed. In its eyes, Su Ming's shadow showed up clear, ready to land the next hit. Su Ming decided he was finished messing around, so he went all in with one last attack and straight up cut the monster in two. Right after he won, a system pop-up showed up, letting him know he'd just pulled off the win. The monster broke apart and turned into a bunch of glowing data, and right after that, a loot screen popped up on the display. He just got his hands on a basic bronze skill scroll for a single slash move. He looked down at what was left of his enemy and thought the skill wasn't top tier, but honestly, it was pretty solid for a beginner dungeon. Out of nowhere, this bright golden light just swallowed him up, and right in front of him a huge First Blood title popped up. Everyone in the dungeon suddenly heard an announcement. Some level 2 swordmaster just took out the first monster in Tidalway Forest and grabbed that First Blood title. Everywhere in the dungeon, students froze up when the notification popped up on their screens. Every player got handed a small healing potion as a reward. An injured girl held tight to the potion that suddenly showed up in her hand and let out a breath, finally feeling safe for a second. The other students started talking about the mysterious swordmaster. Some were quick to say it had to be Su Ming, the famous 10-star student, while a few thought maybe it was someone else. Even though nobody really knew for sure, everyone started to think that maybe beating this dungeon wasn't impossible after all. Back at his spot, Su Ming started freaking out. He totally spaced on the public title system, and it suddenly hit him that it might give away how strong he actually was. He decided he needed to play it smart from now on, planning to use his concealment skill to keep his wins under wraps. After about 30 minutes, he realized he was actually the first one to take down a monster, which honestly caught him off guard. He sprinted deeper into the woods, only to slam on the brakes out of nowhere. Right then, a squad of level 3 direwolves popped out from the bushes, their green eyes locked on him and looking seriously dangerous. Su Ming spotted the wolves and couldn't help but grin. He knew these were top tier for grinding levels. He figured this was the best time to test his new sword move. Earlier, he'd used his Universal Ascension ability to level up the bronze skill scroll he got from the ape. The system just leveled up the skill, taking it to a whole new stage. He upgraded his move into something way stronger. Now he had this silver level skill called Sword Drawing Slash. With it, he could slide his sword back into the sheath, lock in his focus, and then go all out with a single heavy-hitting attack. The dire wolves started howling and Su Ming tapped into his new power. Out of nowhere, this huge blue wave shaped like a crescent came crashing down on the group that was charging in. When he spots the wolf pack, he doesn't waste any time. He just charges in, swinging his sword. He keeps going, cutting down one hungry wolf after another without slowing down. He just keeps going at these wolves, taking them out one after another without slowing down, stacking up more and more experience points as he goes. At this point, he'd already stacked up over 800 experience points. But after what just happened, his total shot up to 8,000. He kept taking down wolves one after another, and every time his level went up. Now he'd hit level 9 and even unlocked the title Legend of Starving Wolf. Once he took out everyone around, he realized using that draw sword slash move from a distance made clearing out these weak, hungry wolves way easier. Farming them just got a whole lot faster. He pulled the blade out slow, waiting for the perfect second to build up all the energy. Once he locked onto his target, he let it all go in one clean move. He goes right back at the wolf pack, not letting up for a second. The fight keeps going, but out of nowhere, someone steps in and stops his move. This was the boss of the pack, known as the Wolf King. The Wolf King was chilling at level 10. Out in the real world, squads were already set up and good to go, just waiting to jump into the dungeon. Once people drop into the dungeon, it gets wild right away. Everyone just starts throwing hands as soon as they show up. A lot of them don't make it out, and plenty of monsters get wiped too. The teen squad finally takes down this freaky mutated field mouse. Suddenly, they're all hyped up, just grinning and celebrating their first real win. After a long grind, they finally took down a rare monster. Someone in the group pointed out that they actually had a shot at winning now. While everyone's caught up in the hype, suddenly their phones buzz with a dungeon alert. News drops that some level 9 freshman just soloed the boss monster in Wildtide Forest, and now he's got the Boss of Bosses title locked in. Everyone in the dungeon saw the announcement pop up and instantly started buzzing. Guys were looking around, not believing what they just saw. A couple of them tried to figure out how a freshman could hit level 9 already. Some thought there's no way a life class could be that strong. Others were just straight up questioning if someone really hit level 9 that fast. The whole place felt like it was about to go viral. The story jumps back to 10 minutes earlier. The wolf leader was right in front of him. He just kept swinging his sword again and again, not letting up for a second, and you could see the wolf leader getting more tired each time. The wolf sprinted through the chaos, weaving between the heroes as he dodged every move they threw at him. As the fight heats up, the hero goes all in, not bothered at all by the whole Boss Wolf King thing. He's got that confidence, knowing he's not just some random, he's someone who's been through this before, someone who's lived another life. That energy just hits different, and you can tell he's totally locked in. As soon as our hero goes in with the attack, the Wolf King just drops on the spot. A pop-up showed up on his screen, letting him know he just took down the Silverback Wolf King and racked up over 500 XP. Right after that, his level jumped up again. Now he's officially level 10. Now the scene jumps to the present. There's a squad out chasing down monsters, and it's clear they've been through it. Their leader's obviously frustrated. Taking down that pack of hungry wolves drained all their energy, but at least they pulled it off. The guy next to him just nodded, clearly relieved that the Katak Blue scroll from the dungeon reward showed up right when they needed it. If that scroll hadn't come through, their whole squad would have been done for. The team leader heard that and immediately lost his cool. Everyone's staring at this freshman who just hit level 9, and they can't believe it. The dungeon's gotta be glitched or something, because there's no way a lifestyle class should level up that fast. It almost feels like he's flexing on everyone else. He chucked his sword across the ground and flopped down, totally pissed. That cheap beginner machete was useless, couldn't even scratch anything. If that scammer at the weapon shop hadn't ripped him off, he'd already have a decent silver weapon. One of his teammates looked over and pointed out that the kid was just lucky this time. As soon as he hears it, the leader just loses it. He's fuming, thinking about how he took all the hits for the team, but still had to split the XP. After wiping out a bunch of wolves, he only made it to level 2. It hits him that he got the short end of the stick, and now he's seriously annoyed. He started thinking about that kid, wondering if he actually made it into the dungeon. If their paths crossed, he was ready to take him out. No questions asked. Honestly, the idea of getting rid of the kid sounded like a good way to clear his head. When his teammate heard what happened, he tried to chill him out. He reminded him that everyone had just hit level 2, so taking down wolves from here on out would be way smoother. The story jumps back to the main guy. He just hit level 10, so he checks his stats and sees this new notification pop up. It says he made it to level 10, and now he unlocked the beginner class change quest. You could tell he's hyped. Dude's been grinding for this moment. After spotting what just happened, he realized he could still unlock that first-class change quest once he hit level 10. This was the chance he'd been waiting for. Last time around, he didn't even get to level 10 until he was already out of the starter dungeon. So because of that, his class change quest ended up tied to this way tougher E-rank dungeon he was already trying to beat. At his level back then, there was just no way he could clear it. He ended up stuck grinding for hours just to hit level 15, all because he needed to finish that first class change quest. By the time he actually did it, the rewards were basically nerfed and not even worth it. But things are different now. He's already hit level 10 right there in the newbie dungeon, moving way faster than before. Right then, another alert pops up showing the quest spot, Red Rock Cave, right in the middle of Wild Tide Forest. He checks it out and can't help but grin. Finally, it's unlocked. Looks like the quest is actually inside the beginner dungeon. Everything just got way simpler. Now, all he has to do is throw every stat point from leveling up straight into agility. With that boost, finishing this first-class change quest is basically a done deal. The story moves over to Xuanzing City's top academy. Inside the office, the principal's there, looking busy. A bunch of people were in the office, all glued to their screens, checking out the school's student rankings and stats. While everyone was locked in, one girl who was deep into the data turned to the principal and pointed out that the new rookie dungeon rankings for top talents from nearby cities just dropped. When she spoke up, the principal started looking through the stats and realized something was off. He noticed Su Ming's name wasn't on the list, the student he really believed in. The girl told him straight up that nobody was missing. That was all the info they got back from the dungeon. At 8 o'clock, the dungeon leaderboard finally updated. The first blood title popped up, showing that a sword controller had claimed it. The principal immediately realized it had to be Su Ming, the student he'd been keeping an eye on. The second he heard that, the principal's face got serious. First blood was cool and all, but he was thinking about how Su Ming's class was sword controller, and the dude was born with full 10-star stats. On top of that, the principal had even hooked him up with a starter pack. With all that going for him, Su Ming shouldn't have any trouble taking out a few monsters just by brute strength alone. So, the principal couldn't figure out how Su Ming wasn't even making. Suddenly, the door swung open hard, and someone started yelling from outside, asking what was going on and calling out Principal Wang. It turned out to be Ranling, the vice mayor of Xuanzing City. Right then, she was fuming and just went off on the principal. She brought up how the school had supposedly trained some top-tier student this year, Su Ming, the 10-star Awaken everyone kept talking about. But her secretary had already pulled up the rookie dungeon stats, and Su Ming's name wasn't even there. The principal jumped in fast after hearing what she said. He told the vice mayor not to get too hyped yet. Yeah, Su Ming had that insane 10-star talent, but since his class was sword controller, his early game strength wasn't going to pop off right away. The vice mayor fired back, saying there's no way a sword controller like him should miss the top 500. He cut off Principal Wang, straight up accusing him of lying about the student's skill just to score extra Heavenly Tower Council tokens this year. Principal Wang got caught off guard, definitely not expecting to get called out like that. The vice mayor wasn't having it. He started laying out the numbers, saying Yanzi was the only one at this school really standing out right now. Yanzi's got that 9-star talent, running with a hidden demon hunting ranger class, and he's sitting at number 2 on the leaderboard. Honestly, he's the school's best shot at going up against Lai Chen Guang, the top guy from the next city over. There's also Zhong Tang, the real son from the Zhong family, who's rocking a magic hammer warrior class. He's got innate 8-star skills and is holding down the 4th spot, so he's definitely one to watch. Now she realized she could only hand out 2 qualification tokens for the Heavenly Tower Council. She pulled out the tokens and passed them over to the principal. The principal stared at them for a second, kind of surprised, since every school usually got 3 tokens before. As he was heading out, the vice mayor dropped a harsh reminder about the academy always ranking dead last for the past 2 years. She basically said if they end up at the bottom again, there won't even be a shot at joining the Heavenly Tower Council next year. The principal, clearly anxious, tried to ask what would happen if the students actually did well later on. The vice mayor just said they'd consider it, but she had stuff to do and bounced. With that, she walked off, leaving everyone a bit on edge. The principal sat there, totally on edge, mumbling under his breath. He knew the Heavenly Tower Council was the go-to spot for picking up missions, grabbing rewards, and leveling up. Losing the chance to get into the Heavenly Tower Council just isn't an option. At first, he figured having a 10-star Awakened student this year would mean grabbing another token, easy, but now they ended up with one less than expected. All eyes are on Su Ming to step up and not mess this up. Now, the story cuts back to the hero. He's already outside Red Rock Cave, following the map and making his way forward, deep in thought. The map shows the task is right here. Luckily, he didn't run into any annoying monsters on the way over. He never checked out this spot in his last life, so there's no clue what might pop up now. Right then, a gold-digging goblin showed up level 6, not messing around, and stared him down with some serious attitude. He spotted the goblin and instantly knew what he was dealing with. He didn't waste a second. He sprinted straight ahead, sword out, and took down the goblin quick. As soon as he finished it off, all he could think about was making sure it didn't warn the whole cave. Right then, a system alert flashed. Turns out the goblin just woke up. Goblin mode was now on. As soon as that happened, this wild screeching blasted through the whole cave. When he heard the news, he just froze for a second, trying to figure out what was going on. Out of nowhere, a swarm of goblins popped up right in front of him. He didn't mess around. His whole vibe shifted, realizing this first-class change quest was way tougher than he thought. Now, he was staring down a ridiculous crowd of goblins, all ready to throw hands. Then, another alert showed up, letting him know every single goblin in Red Rock Cave was about to gang up and attack him at once. Another system message popped up about goblin mode, basically saying it was all about doing whatever you want and not caring what anyone thinks, even if it means being lazy or messy. Right after seeing that, he grabbed his sword, got locked in, and started taking down goblins one by one. He kept swinging and fighting non-stop, but there were just way too many goblins. They started closing in from every direction. When he saw just how many there were, he took off running. He knew the goblins weren't super strong, but there were so many that it was getting out of hand. He was starting to worry if his weapon was even going to last through all this. Out of nowhere, the biggest monster in the group swung its weapon right at him. He didn't wait. He dodged fast and jumped back, barely missing the hit. Right then, the goblin archers down below started letting arrows fly his way. A lot of their hits landed on him. He tried blocking some arrows with his sword, but plenty still got through and tagged him. He was just scraping by, dodging attacks left and right. He realized these dudes weren't dumb. They knew trying to move around in midair made it way harder for him to avoid stuff. After having to stay on his toes for so long, his energy started to drain and he was getting tired. As soon as he lost speed, a bunch of goblins with daggers didn't waste a second. They rushed him and started swinging. Their attacks landed straight on, forcing him to stumble back. He caught his balance and, getting dead serious, realized his mana this early just couldn't keep Divine Shadow Step going for long. Going up against a bunch of goblins, and even an elite one, he knew he was way outmatched. Early on, with barely any skills to work with, taking them out straight up would be tough. He picked up speed and shot out from between the rocks, figuring he'd have to stay quick on his feet and just dodge for now. He ducked behind a huge boulder, getting ready to catch the goblins off guard. As they got closer, he watched them and couldn't help but laugh to himself, feeling totally locked in for the fight. The goblins closed in, cutting off every escape, but behind a rock he was posted up, actually hoping things would go just like this. The second he spotted all those goblins grouped up, he didn't hesitate. He popped out from behind the rock and rushed straight at them, swinging his sword and letting them have it. He went off, swinging his sword non-stop. Every goblin nearby got taken out, one after another, as he just kept cutting them down until none were left standing. While taking them out, he really zoned in. If he could lock down the best spot, his sword skills would hit way harder and give him the upper hand. He just kept swinging at everything nearby until every small goblin around him was done for. He looked around and didn't even notice that everyone else was gone, just him and the goblin chief left standing. Now, he was face to face with the last boss. Outside the cave, some students showed up checking out what was going on. One guy pointed toward the entrance, letting everyone know he'd heard fighting coming from inside when he was out scouting. Everyone started paying more attention, realizing something serious might be happening in there. The moment the leader heard that, he looked annoyed. He didn't buy it at all. The system already showed that the monsters here were all level 7 and up, so nobody would be crazy enough to mess with them. But the first guy doubled down, saying he actually heard fighting going on inside. Just then, the noise from the fight inside the cave kicked off again, and dust started pouring out. The students saw it and couldn't help but freeze for a second, caught off guard by what was happening. The leader noticed movement and pointed out that someone was about to show up. The first student, who'd switched to serious mode, started wondering who these new people might be. He couldn't get over the fact that anyone would actually try to hunt monsters here right now. While everyone was chatting, our hero walked out of the cave. The second he showed up, the student leader's whole vibe changed. He got all serious. He instantly recognized the kid who beat him in that sword challenge. For the leader, running into him again felt like fate, but not in a good way. Right then, he had his eyes glued to the system panel, thinking this first mission actually seemed pretty cool. Even though nothing crazy was happening, it still gave him a bit of a rush. Right then, he sensed something coming from behind him. The leader of the rival group tried to sneak up and land a hit, but as soon as he caught on, he dodged without even thinking. When the leader saw what just happened, he instantly got super focused. He realized the guy actually dodged it, so he told everyone to close in and make sure he couldn't get away. At this point, every guy from the other team had circled up around him. He checked them out. He wasn't backing down or anything. He just stood there, locked in, making it clear he was ready to face whatever. The leader from the other crew stepped up, clearly heated, still salty about what happened last time when he took a big L because of him. The guy stared down at him, acting like running into him here was just his bad luck. He tried to mess with him, asking if he was scared now. The hero, already annoyed, wanted to know who these people even were. One of the students just laughed, saying the hero must not even remember them. The leader of the group was clearly pissed off. He hadn't forgotten that time the guy took 5,000 arrival coins from him, and it still bugged him. Not wasting any more time, he signaled his crew, basically telling everyone to jump in and go after the dude all at once. He and his crew rushed straight at our hero, ready to throw hands. The moment he spotted them heading his way, he grabbed his sword. He couldn't remember what happened before, but he figured there was no point in starting a fight. Still, if things were about to go down, he was ready to test out his new move. The second he pulled out his sword, he just charged in and started swinging at every student who tried to get close. He messed them up pretty bad, and everyone started yelling from how much it hurt. He focused and pulled off his sword control move, bringing a sword from way across the room right into his hand like it was nothing. When the leader student saw it happen, he just froze, not believing what he was seeing. No way. That's something only mid-level sword masters can actually pull off. The sword shot across the sky like it was nothing. The hero, already pushing past the students he'd fought, grabbed the sword and kept going. He remembered how he picked up the sword control skill from a silver skill scroll that an elite goblin dropped. Thanks to his talent ascension, that silver scroll got boosted to gold, and he happened to unlock this skill at random. He honestly didn't think it would click this well or that he'd end up unlocking sword control like this. Now that this happened, word's definitely going to get around, and everyone's going to be even more sure he's a sword master. But honestly, that's not even the biggest deal. After clearing out all the goblins in Red Rock Cave, he scored the blueprint showing exactly where the last treasure chest is for the first turn mission. While all this was going down, the focus switched to a different crew of students dealing with monsters too. They managed to take down the one blocking their way, and the whole squad got hyped. One of the girls couldn't stop laughing, clearly loving the moment. They took down all the small monsters as a squad, proving that an all-girls team could handle themselves just fine. Fen definitely carried with that 7-star awakening, and everyone knew they owed her big time. Now it was time to split up the loot and see what they scored. Another girl checked in on her teammates, making sure nobody was running on empty. The third girl shrugged it off, acting like she was totally good. Right then, the first girl got hyped and sprinted over to the monster they just took down, eager to see if it dropped anything cool. The second girl was chatting with her teammates, but then her eyes darted over to where the rest of them should have been. They weren't there, which instantly threw her off. She stared at the empty spot, totally thrown off. No sign of anyone else, just her standing there. Out of nowhere, this slow fog started rolling in, making everything look sketchy. She kept glancing around, clearly on edge, trying to figure out where everyone had disappeared to and why it suddenly felt like she was the only one left. She just froze up, totally lost. Everything around her fell off, like none of it added up. She glanced at the ground, hoping for some clue, but nope, there was nothing there. She started to get nervous, trying to figure out what was actually going on. Out of nowhere, someone's scream cut through the place, loud enough that everyone froze for a second. And just like that, this chapter wraps up. Nobody really knows what kind of crazy stuff is coming up next, but it's gonna be wild for sure. The next episode's on the way, so stay tuned. Until then, see you in the next one. Drop your predictions down below. What do you think's about to go down? And yeah, hit that like and subscribe if you're rocking with the story.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole, spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Web2 Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.